Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is Nick Wright. Doug Gottlieb is here, everybody.
What up, man?
What's up, man? Last time I was here, you didn't have hair. Now, all of a sudden, just...
Last time I saw you, you had a little more. It's amazing how... good to see you, Doug.
I
did. I walked right down. I walked right into that one.
Okay, no more banging the table. All my coffee just spilled.
Foamy.
We have a great show. We're happy you're here. Great show for you today. Tons of football to get to heading into Week 16 already, believe it or not. But we start this morning to the grand delight of my guy here, Nick Wright, with the best team in the NBA, and that is the LA Lakers. Lakers were in Indy last night facing the Pacers. AD sitting out with the ankle injury. End of the fourth quarter. Lakers down 2, 12 seconds left. LeBron misses the step-back 3 over Miles Turner. He was 0 for 6 from 3 on the night. Rondo tried to save the miss by throwing it off Aaron Holiday. Looks good, but wait. His foot hits the ground just before the ball was out of his hand, so Pacers ball. 11 seconds to go. Pacers up 3 now. Domantas Sabonis missing the free throw. One last chance for the Lakers. Rondo, who's shooting a career-high 45% from 3, cannot hit the game-tying shot. Lakers snap their 14-game road win streak with the 105-102 loss. Here's LeBron James after the game.
Kept our composure, and we did that tonight too. And we still had an opportunity to win the game. We just didn't. So throughout the winning streak, we was able to keep our composure throughout, adversity, up or down. Still being able to make a game out of it, which we did tonight. But sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way, which is okay. But that's how it is.
Can't win them all, although maybe we thought the Lakers might be able to. Nick, was last night about missing Anthony Davis, or are there bigger issues that the Lakers are facing?
Well, there's one, I would say, looming issue for the Lakers that we can discuss in a moment. Last night, though, was about you don't have Anthony Davis, your second best player. You don't have Kyle Kuzma again, who should be your third most reliable scorer, even if he's not your third best player. And LeBron was bad. Like, by his standards, 29-9, 0 of 6 from 3. The free throws near the end. He hit 2 free throws at the end, but he missed 2 a couple possessions earlier that were critical misses. Then Dwight misses a couple. And it's a huge missed opportunity for the Lakers. Because had they won, they'd be a game away from tying the all-time record for most consecutive road wins. They would have had an opportunity to do that in what is their most difficult game of the entire season at Milwaukee Thursday. That's the hardest game on the schedule, and now they go into that game with a loss. The looming bigger issue is the greatest player I've ever seen, one of the 3 greatest players Doug's ever seen, has a free throw problem that's real.
Yeah.
And he's in his head about it. And you even saw, I think we didn't show the highlight, but when they were down 2 or we did show the highlight, the play where Rondo tries to save the ball, LeBron didn't have to take a 3 when he's 0 for 3 from the field there down 2. One of the reasons he doesn't want to drive. He didn't want to drive.
Yeah.
And he drove a couple possessions prior, drew the defense to him, kicked it to Caruso for an open look. It was a great shot. He just missed it. But this is right now a real thing for LeBron, which is he has no rhythm at the line, he has no confidence at the line, and he has no routine, which is what is critical to making free throws. And so that's the one looming issue, is watching. He doesn't need to be 85%. But even if he's only around 70%, he has to feel like he's 85%, or else it affects the way he plays at the end of games. Saw that yesterday, so I don't want to overreact. Still the best team in the league. LeBron's still MVP, at least of the Western Conference so far this season. But that is something to watch moving forward.
All right, so the micro is let's mark the date, December 17th. 2019.
That's the one.
That you run a play for Rondo to take a 3 at the end of a game. That has never, he's been in the league for over a decade. That has never happened. Obviously, that would not be the look that I would be looking for, considering the litany of other options that they have.
I don't even think Rondo should have been on the floor. They could have subbed him out at the free throw.
That part didn't make any sense to me. Didn't make any sense to me either.
You knew you were going to need a 3 there. I don't know why Rondo's on the floor.
Well, there's a little bit of an infatuation with Rondo there from, I think, members of this coaching staff, especially the end of the bench closest to the scoring table, right? Yep. Because they were in the Eastern Conference when Rondo was true Rondo, and he's getting a lot more run than he probably should be.
Yeah, but even then, they weren't running. The Celtics were not running game-ending 3s for him. But go ahead.
No, he would actually be in the post.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and I understand that Victor Oladipo's still not playing, but the Lakers, you don't have Kuzma, you don't have AD. That's 50 points.
Yeah.
That's 50 points on a pretty good night that you don't have. So on the micro, you're going to lose some of these games. It was a winnable game for them. Mm-hmm. Really was. It was right there for the taking. So we'll give some credit to the Pacers. On the macro, I completely agree with you on the LeBron free throw thing. I've been a longtime proponent of why does the NBA not have 1-and-1? The three-point line is deeper than any other three-point line. The lane line is wider. You only get 8 seconds to get across midcourt, 24 seconds to shoot the basketball, right? All these are because
everything's harder.
Everything's harder because
except for the 1-and-1.
Except for the 1-and-1. Yep. They used to have 3 for 2 way back in the day. I would make it harder. But for LeBron James, it's the part that you nailed, the really smart part, was not just the free throw yips, it's how it affects players. Alonzo Ball had this problem when he was with the Lakers, has it now at times with the Pelicans, where he won't drive in there to get fouled. He'll avoid contact.
He doesn't want to take it.
Right, because it's the embarrassment of being up there and getting super tight. And here's, the greatest player of this generation sitting up there getting tight at the free throw line when he's been to all these NBA finals. But look, I've had the free throw yips. People are going to go and Google and be like, damn, dude, you couldn't make anything. I was a great free throw shooter. With me, it was just like stage fright. My freshman year, I was at Notre Dame. I airballed a free throw against Rutgers. I made the next one. We lose the game. The next day, John McLeod, my head coach, calls me in. He wants to watch game tape, and it's me and him, and we're watching the airball. What happened here? And I'm not saying that he got in my head. I was in my own head. But between, putting on college muscles, changing your shot, your coach,
But you were a different guy at practice than you were in the game.
Right.
In practice, you could hit free throws, and in the games, you couldn't. You got in your
Yes, but there were times in games where I would feel good, and I'd step up there and feel. And there would be times at games where there would be any place on earth I would rather be than at that free throw line.
Yep.
And LeBron James just sometimes. Last night was a night where he didn't have from 3. Even in that kind of weird step-back shot that he likes to shoot, that's like his go-to, even that didn't look comfortable, and the free throw didn't look comfortable, but it affects his game.
But in a year where he's now playing point guard, and he didn't play point guard, in a year where he's leading the league in assists, and that wasn't his thing, you would think that doing something that he's not great at or for the first time or working on wouldn't really give him the yips. How do you get over something like that?
Well, listen, LeBron had a major free throw issue a few years ago, and he fixed it by lane violating on every free throw.
Yes.
He got in a routine.
Yes.
The routine was, forget what he did before the shot, but right as soon as he released it, he would, before it hit the rim, step over the line. And it went uncalled for 3 months.
It's illegal.
It was technically illegal, but you don't really call lane violations in the NBA. And then during a playoff game, it got called.
Right.
And they called it on consecutive free throws,
right.
And one referee essentially made it, you're not going to be able to do this anymore. And since then, he hasn't gotten back to a routine. Like, you remember exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
And so he's never been a great free throw shooter. But the last 2 years, it's the worst he's been. And now, again, he hit 2 free throws critical late in this game to tie the basketball game, but he missed 2 prior, and then Dwight Howard missed 2 when they had an opportunity to take this win.
Look, I want to turn this into LeBron, Jordan, and all that other stuff. I actually think that what I'm going to say about LeBron is an ultimate compliment. It's like Peyton Manning could be the greatest quarterback we've ever seen, and he never threw a tight spiral, right? Like, he was Duck City, and he played indoors, and he still won. LeBron James has never been a truly confident jump shooter, like consistently. Like most of these guys, like Kobe Bryant, he was terrible in Game 7 when they won the last NBA championship, but he shot, 27 shots?
6 of 24.
He thought the next one was going in. Like LeBron, it comes and goes. Like, I actually think he's one of those guys that's too smart where he's thinking about his shot.
Well, that's the part that I don't think it's about he's not a confident jump shooter. I think it's that LeBron's biggest asset has always, it's never been his size, his body, his speed, it's his brain. And he is always thinking 2 plays ahead and almost supercomputering the basketball game. That works against you at the free throw line. That the overthinking, and it works against you in figuring out, but if I go here, am I going to get hit here? Am I going to end up at the line?
Remember last game when Boogie Cousins pulled him aside and was like, you're overthinking. Just go out there and play. You're overthinking. But when you're at the stripe, when you're at the line, all you do is think. It can't be instinctual. You have to think.
If you remember, even the series that they won against the Spurs, there were Game 7, he was the only one who could stand up straight and made shots. But Game 6, and other games, the Spurs would dare him to take that mid-range.
Games 1 through 5, they dared him, and Game 6 and 7, he hit him.
Right.
That was the difference.
But the point is that people have believed you could get in his head. And what I wanted to say, when I wanted to compare him to Peyton Manning, is like, he's going to probably be the league's all-time scoring leader, and he's not really a scorer. He doesn't love scoring like he loves passing. Right. He's going to score all these points, and he's not really a natural dead-eye jump shooter that has no conscience like most of these other guys do. That's the most interesting part about the spectacular career that he's had.
Lakers still top
Number one
in the league.
best record in basketball. They'll beat Milwaukee Thursday, and everyone will be fine.
We shall see. Talk some football now. Must-watch TV Sunday on Fox. Cowboys and Eagles from Philadelphia. At this time yesterday, the Cowboys were favored by 2.5. Our guys at Fox Bet now have the boys favored by 3 points on the road. Nick, you surprised the Cowboys are road favorites over the Eagles Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I am surprised. I think the line's wrong. I think that we are seeing...
You tell that line.
I think we are seeing exactly what happened with the Cowboys-Rams point spread from last week, where the Cowboys open as favorites because they're at home, and then it moves drastically in the Rams' favor because of recency bias. Because the Rams had all of a sudden looked competent. The Cowboys obviously hadn't played well as of late. So instead of looking holistically at the season... They looked incredible. Well, no, this was prior to last week. Instead of looking at it holistically on the season going into Cowboys-Rams, these are two teams that both underachieved. They've been about equals. The Cowboys are at home. The Cowboys have looked terrible. The Rams have looked great, so the Rams became favorites. This is a reaction to the Cowboys finally being the team so many people hoped they would be all year long, but the team they have not been for any extended stretch. So, yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I think the Eagles will win. I think the Eagles are at least as good as the Cowboys, and the game is at home. Doug, you disagree?
Well, look, do I think that we all overreact to the Dallas Cowboys, good and bad? Yeah, I agree with that part. But if anybody out there can name who Carson Wentz is throwing to, congratulations, right? Like you and I know Greg Ward because Houston, right? He was wide receiver, then a quarterback, then a wide receiver, and he caught the game winner. But they needed a guy who had, I think, survived 6 different roster moves to catch the game winner in D.C. against Dwayne Haskins, a terrible Redskin team. They have been besieged by injuries. And even before they were at this point in the season, the last time these two teams met, the Cowboys ran over them. Cowboys are healthier than they've been. I just think this is a mismatch based upon the health around Carson Wentz, the health of that defense, which is not nearly what it used to be, and the fact that the Cowboys did look good, did change some things up, and they just have better personnel.
I guess my argument would be, who was Josh Allen throwing to when the Bills whooped the Cowboys on Thanksgiving? Mitch Trubisky.
But the defense dominated that game. Bills' defense is legit, right?
Bills' defense is legit, and the Bears' defense is legit, agreed. But both those teams ran up 20-plus consecutive points on this Cowboys defense, despite having mediocre offenses. And with the Eagles, they obviously, even if Carson Wentz having a down year, have a better quarterback than either of those two previous teams. I believe the Eagles have a better quarterback than the Rams do, because I think Jared Goff the league has figured him out, and I think Jared Goff is about to become a bit of an anchor around the Rams' neck. And Carson Wentz, to his credit,
along with Todd Gurley,
a bunch of issues for the Rams. And Carson Wentz, to his credit, after there being so many questions about what type of leader he is, about where his standing is in the locker room, in 2 straight weeks where the team has not played well, at the end of the games, against bad opponents, no doubt, he has led game-winning touchdown drives, which I think does help his standing in the locker room.
No question. If you go back and watch the Falcons game, they had a drop where they win the game. They play the Patriots. He throws an absolute...
Aguilar has it to
Aguilar dropped it against the Falcons, too. Yep. Same guy. Nelson Aguilar dropped 3 balls that would have completely changed their season and the complexion of the NFC playoffs. And so I'm with you. I think Carson Wentz is getting an undue amount of criticism. I just don't think they have the guy. They had so many.
They're too banged up.
Yeah, to play the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, is their coaching thing a mess? And is Jerry doing press conferences in the locker room a mess? Absolutely. But they got dudes. They absolutely have dudes. And they're finally healthy at linebacker, and they changed some things up defensively. I just think this is a personnel mismatch.
How much is on the line this weekend for both teams? There's a division title. There's Garrett's job safety. There's Wentz's defense of that contract. It just feels like for 2 teams out of a really bad division to have such a big game that there's a lot on the line for this game.
Because the division's so bad, that's why 2 teams that are both 7-7 can be playing in the biggest game of the weekend as far as playoff probability. The Cowboys win and they're in. The Eagles win, and I would say they're like 90-some% to get in, because they then just have to avoid falling all over themselves in the final game of the year against the New York Giants, which they're not. I can't imagine they are going to do after the Giants threw a scare into them recently. And so, but it's more than just that. I think Jason Garrett's fired. I think that there is nothing he can do short of making the Super Bowl, which they will not do, to save his job. But on the flip side for Carson Wentz, even if the winner of this division's one and done in the playoffs, like I think they're going to be, Doug, I think it's important for Carson Wentz to play in a playoff game. I think if the Eagles are going to get back to the standing they had going into this season, being back to being a contender in the NFC, they need their quarterback, when they are a good team, when they are a healthier team, to have played in a playoff game before. He is yet to do that. So just winning the division and having that experience against Seattle or San Francisco at home, I think would be very good.
Why? To get the monkey off his back?
Forward. To get the experience. It's just a different environment in the postseason.
It's just that everything is ramped up. But we are bearing the lead in terms of who this game is most important to. Take Antonio Brown out, maybe take Melvin Gordon out. Outside of those two, no one has lost more money this season than Dak Prescott after early in the year. Early, they come out and they're playing the two worst teams in the NFL, and he looks like Johnny Unitas matched up with John Elway and Dan Marino, right? He's dropping dimes, and the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl, and now they're 7-7. And he's not catching a ton of the blame. Don't get me wrong. Like, no one's coming in and going, hey, Dak stinks. But are you going to give this guy $40 million, $35 million a year, especially with that Mahomes deal? Or are you going to franchise tag him? And it's pretty hard to sign up for a long-term contract if your team misses out in the playoffs. And we're going to make our determination on, fair or unfair, who Dak Prescott is, how he plays on the road against the Eagles in week 16. Right? Yep. If they don't make the playoffs, I disagree with you on the Garrett thing. I think he's very likely to be fired. But I also think we need to take a breath and see how this thing plays out, because crazier things have happened than the Cowboys get to the NFC Championship game, close game. They lose because their kicker stinks. Their kicking game has been awful.
They're not going to get to the NFC Championship.
I don't think it will either. Okay, but we've seen Eli Manning lead teams with a great pass rush and a 500 or slightly above 500 team to 3 straight road wins and to a Super Bowl and beat the Patriots, and he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. We've seen it happen before.
We can pull on the biggest anomalies in sports history and say there could be another anomaly. So you're right, I can't put it at 0%, but I can put it damn close. On the Dak stuff, I think analytically you are correct. I think logically you're correct. Listen, Dak all of a sudden, he's 12th in the league in quarterback rating. He has thrown the 10th most interceptions in football. All of a sudden, his amazing MVP candidate year has turned into, Dak's played pretty well this year. It's gone down to that. Right. Where I disagree with you is he's getting paid regardless.
I think he's
going to get overpaid regardless. It's not money I would be comfortable paying him. He is going to get more money than Carson Wentz or Jared Goff got. Guaranteed.
They lose Sunday.
Yeah.
They lose Sunday, and he still gets a huge contract.
Yes, they blame Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett gets fired, and Dak Prescott becomes a polarizing contract. $35 million plus per season.
He's Draymond Green. If you surround him with guys, he's really, really good.
I don't disagree with you.
He surround him with guys.
Jerry Jones loves him, and that's all that matters.
Jerry Jones loves all of his guys. Jerry Jones loves all of his guys. The only guy he doesn't like is Jason Garrett, who he actually loves, but he has to pretend like he doesn't love.
What happened to Draymond this offseason?
What do you mean?
He got paid.
No, I know he did.
Yeah, I mean,
but he didn't get paid at the level. He didn't get paid at the level of those other guys.
Okay, he's going to get paid.
And Draymond Green, like, let's be honest, the whole Hall of Famer talk, like, really, you're a Hall of Famer. And
we don't have to. Draymond's a Hall of Famer. Come on.
All right, last night back in the NBA, the West's second best team, the Clippers, beat the Suns convincingly, 120-99. Kawhi back on the court after missing the last game. He had 20 points in just 27 minutes. Before the game, head coach Doc Rivers was asked about LeBron's comments in regards to load management and had some interesting comments in reply. Take a listen.
It's our philosophy. I don't know what theirs are. I think theirs is whatever LeBron says it is, to be honest. That makes a lot of sense to me. But, no, I think I like what we're doing. I think it's the smart thing to do. And, who knows? We'll see at the end.
Okay, shots fired. You got two sides here. You got Doc and Kawhi, and you got LeBron.
I grew up in Southern California. Okay? The idea that the Clippers are on the same plane or in anywhere discussion the same plane as the Lakers, it just blows my mind. Blows my mind.
It should, because they're not, and they haven't played as such, and they won't be at the end of the year. But that's fine. We can pretend this is a rivalry until the full season plays out. But you said this coming from Doc Rivers is rich beyond belief. There is no team in basketball that has bent over backwards more to the will of one player than his Clippers with Kawhi Leonard.
Sure.
Kawhi said, trade these guys and all your picks for Paul George. No problem, sir. What else can we do for you? The Clippers said all offseason, we're not going to do the load management stuff that Kawhi did in Toronto. He's missed 8 of 29 games. The Clippers don't want to be engaging in this type of load management, putting this, you know who they'd love to be able to load manage more? Paul George, the guy who had surgery on both shoulders and had to miss the first 13 games of the first month plus of the season. I think it was 13 games. But they can't because they're load managing Kawhi Leonard. It is unbelievable that Doc Rivers would say, the Lakers' philosophy is whatever LeBron says. Ask head coach Ty Lue how that sounds. Oh, wait, he didn't get the job if it was all about what LeBron says. So now there is a history here. Doc Rivers, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett have never gotten over the Heat ending the Big Three in Boston. Paul Pierce goes on TV whenever he gets the opportunity and still fixes his mouth to say, oh, I was better than LeBron. You look like a fool. Kevin Garnett just yesterday went on Bill Simmons' podcast and was asked about why the Heat beat the Celtics, ended the Big Three. And he said, basically, the fix was in because the league wanted the Heat to win, not because, they beat you in 5 in the first year LeBron was in Miami, with LeBron ending the series on a 10-0 personal run. And then the single greatest game he's ever played in your building in Game 6, 45-15-5, to officially end the Big Three era. Doc Rivers and that crew have had something, a grudge against LeBron since then. And this is a needle, but it's a needle that is utterly hypocritical given the fact that the Clippers are the team that is doing whatever their superstar wants them to do.
Listen, you're right in calling it hypocritical. It'd also be fair to say that LeBron there were times in Cleveland where he went on a little bit of a bit of a LeBron hiatus.
Once. He had a knee injury and missed 2 weeks.
But here's the bigger thing is, I do think LeBron kind of started this one, right? When they asked him about the load management, he clearly wanted to make it some sort of point of, hey, man, I represent the bigger thing in the league, and I don't do that. That was a shot across the bow at what the Clippers are doing. You're right. The Clippers could not get into business with Kawhi Leonard unless they bowed to his whims of, you want to play 60 games? No problem.
No problem.
Right? And then, of course, the roster, in order to land him, and the weird thing about LeBron is, the hard part about LeBron is he actually doesn't tell you anything. It's the opposite. This is the first time he's actually talked about wanting to play all these games. LeBron, the hard part to coaching LeBron is you have to kind of tell by his mood and how he's playing if he likes you, if he doesn't like you. He's a body language guy. It's actually the opposite of what Doc is saying. But I think that the needle Doc is poking the bear with was poked. He felt like it was poked with him and LeBron taking a shot at load management.
But here's the thing: LeBron was, when you say he was saying he's an ambassador, and
yes,
he's right.
No, he's right.
And I think LeBron also cares about the health of the sport for selfish and selfless reasons. Selfish meaning as far as his long-term, financial gain. The bigger the NBA is, the bigger he is. And selfless reasons because he's been the face of the league for 15 years, so he has that responsibility. And it is important that what Kawhi Leonard is doing does not metastasize to the rest of the league.
But it already has.
No, it has not.
It absolutely
Who
has.
else is load managing?
There's plenty of players who have missed
a game.
Yes.
But that is not the problem here. Because listen.
You say potato, I say potato. Are they missing the volume of games that
That's
Kawhi...
the whole thing.
No, but the idea of load managing is understanding the player, understanding his body, understanding the schedule, and giving him a night off every now and again.
And nobody has an issue with that. Nobody has an issue with guys playing 76 games. No one.
We absolutely have an issue with it sometimes. When LeBron didn't play, what was in Memphis 2 years ago?
Oh, no, of course. If LeBron does something, it's controversial, even if it makes sense. But the 76, missing 5 or 6 games throughout the season, that's what the Spurs originally did when they invented this thing with Tim Duncan. That was not the issue. The issue is the reigning finals MVP playing 3 out of 4 games, missing 25% of the season after last year missing 25% of the season. If that were to infect Harden and Giannis and Anthony Davis, it would be deadly for the sport. That's what LeBron was speaking out against, and I think rightfully at the time.
All right, let's move on. Talk some football now. To the NFL. Patriots, they're 11-3, but it's a little misleading 11-3 given their competition, given how many games they've won. Solely based on that defense, Tom Brady has his lowest career completion percentage and his fewest yards per game in a decade. But a Boston Globe column suggests the Pats deserve the benefit of the doubt on the field and claims they can still reach the Super Bowl. Doug Gottlieb, do the Patriots deserve the benefit of the doubt as they head into the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we declared the Patriots dead, right? And then they're still
a lot.
They go to Miracle Max.
Yep.
And he pumps them full of stuff.
And that's it.
And they were only somewhat dead, which, they were only mostly dead.
Is that a Princess Bride reference?
It is,
okay.
which is mostly, they're mostly dead, which is...
Not all the way dead.
Not all the way dead. All the way dead, only thing you can do is go through the pockets for loose change.
I love you for knowing that.
Yeah,
very, very much.
I just watched The Princess Bride with my son.
Why would you not?
Go ahead.
Such a good movie.
He did love it.
Get back to the Patriots.
Didn't love it.
Really?
Yeah.
Nobody
Okay,
cares.
yeah. Huh?
Get back to the Patriots.
You
they do.
started it.
So-
Princess Bride is a great
nobody
movie.
Great movie, top 5.
So the Patriots are all the way dead or not?
They're mostly dead. I mean, look, do I think they're going to Super Bowl? No. All the teams in the AFC they have to go through, they've lost to, and they probably lose to another one with the Bills this weekend. They should have lost last time up in Orchard Park, right? Like, if Josh Allen doesn't get hurt and they don't...
Blocked punt touchdown changed that game.
They put Matt Barkley in. I was like, dude, Matt Barkley's still in the league? I forgot. So they played... The Texans ran them off the field. The Ravens ran them off the field.
Yep.
And we've seen the Chiefs run them off the field. And the Chiefs have proven, you go back to last week, they can play in bad weather. And, we're one offsides penalty away from the Chiefs beating them last year, and they're not as good as they were last year, and all these teams are better. Look, we're all so scared to say Tom Brady's over the hill, but he's playing like guys over the hill. He doesn't have great weapons. Their defense is good, but good to a point, and you're playing in the AFC that has offenses that can score. But I think he's most upset about the weaponry issue because it's not like there's a team in the AFC where they can't score. The Ravens are scoring 40 a night. The Chiefs are going to put up points, and the Texans are going to put up points. How are you going to score 3 or 4 touchdowns?
This is exactly right. This is 100% true. And what's the last piece of evidence we have that the Patriots are an excellent football team? You go through the schedule, I would say it's week 1. Because Pittsburgh, we now know, actually, and by the way, they still had Ben Roethlisberger in that game, even if his elbow was dangling by a thread.
Right.
And Pittsburgh's a competent football team, and they crushed them. Since then, they have played very well defensively, great defensively, against awful teams.
Yes.
And they have been good but not great defensively against good teams, and awful offensively against anyone with a pulse. And people can keep arguing, well, Brady will come save the day. That game against Cincinnati, where he threw for 128 yards, where it was one of the 8 worst yards per attempt games of his career. By the way, of the 16 worst yards per attempt game of his career, 4 have come this season. You can't blame this on the wide receiver. That is a missed throw. You can't blame this on James White. That is a missed throw. You cannot blame this. What is this, to Sanu? Whomever it's to, who the hell knows? It might have been to the official. Who are we going to blame this one on? These are missed throws by an inaccurate quarterback. And people were so surprised yesterday that when we were doing the Breeze discussion, I said Brady's on a tier by himself.
Yes.
Greatest quarterback ever. Everyone knows he's the greatest quarterback ever. And in fact, the fact that he is still, what is he, the 20th best quarterback in the world at age 42 adds to his greatness. Because no other quarterback in the history of football would have been one of the 40 greatest quarterbacks playing at age 42. But to think that he's going to be able to tap into something in the postseason against a great team, we have no evidence.
He wasn't that much better last year. They went into the Super Bowl against the Rams, and no one thought that they'd ever beat the Rams. The Rams were scoring a ton of points, and people left them for dead. Nobody gave them the benefit of the doubt, and they won.
Jenna, I think that's revisionist history.
Right, but remember, let's also remember they had an easy draw in the first round, right?
Yeah.
Where they got the Chargers off of beating the Ravens, and they took the opening kickoff, marched down the field, and the Chargers absolutely folded like a pup tent, and that game was over. Then they go to Kansas City. They should have lost that game. He threw 2, should have been 3 interceptions. I mean, so.
And in the Super Bowl, they scored 1 touchdown. They scored the.
And then remember, you're also taking out
my point is,
the biggest mismatch with Rob Gronkowski, who helped them in the run and the pass game. Take that off that team. Okay?
And then Brady's a year older.
Brady's a year older. Julian Edelman's a year older.
You guys can leave them for dead until they actually die.
They can go to Miracle Max.
I like it. Back here, first things first. Now joined by former NFL head coach Eric Mangini. Hey, Eric.
What up, Coach?
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you, Coach.
Good to see you.
Gottlieb, Mangini.
We've met a
Gottlieb?
couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple networks.
Just doing my to the Browns now, and the regression that is quarterback Baker Mayfield. Young quarterbacks are supposed to take a step forward in year 2, but a new article from Pro Football Focus says Baker has done the opposite. And he can't blame his O-line. Last year, PFF graded Baker as the 10th best quarterback when he wasn't being pressured. This year, he's ranked 25th in the same category. Nick, is it time to admit that maybe Baker won't actually be a star in this league?
No, that's too early. I subscribe to half of Coach's philosophy on evaluating young quarterbacks. I might anoint them far earlier than Coach will, but I won't write them off as early as some. Like, if you're going to take multiple years to be able to say this guy's actually great, then I think it's only fair to give a guy more than one down year before we say, screw it, he's out of here. What he did his rookie season is meaningless. Now, he has regressed enormously. I think he's regressed on the field and off the field. I think he has shown no emotional maturity development, which you would like for just, forget a quarterback, just a person as they get into their mid-20s, as they become a true grown-up in this world. And on the field, he looks like an undersized, spread offense, confused quarterback. Get the snap, immediately run to your right, and see what the hell's going on. It unfortunately looks a little Johnny Manziel-ish, but I saw how incredibly accurate and what a great arm he had at Oklahoma. I saw what he did last year when they had a real adult as the head coach of that football team, and I still believe in the talent. So, no, I can't write him off. There is no...
Wasn't Freddie Kitchens the interim coach
No.
last year?
Greg Robinson was.
Okay.
Greg Williams, pardon me.
Williams,
Greg
yeah.
Robinson's the former
I don't know if I would say Greg Williams is a real adult, but
well,
okay.
I mean, I think he's done a great job of coordinating with the Jets, and I think that he obviously has the scar of Bounty Gate on him, but he knows what he's doing. And so I still believe Baker can get back to what made him great and get back on that trajectory. But there is no denying this year, by any metric, he's been a bottom 5 quarterback in the league. So he's got a lot of work to do just to get back to where he was. But I'm not ready to write. I won't write him off after one awful season.
I talk about this a lot, and it's really a hard thing to convey in sports. We consistently stress with players how to deal with adversity. But we're not great at conveying to players how to deal with success. And a lot of people have a really difficult time understanding how to navigate through a really successful period of their life, and that can cause huge problems. And I think this is part of what happened. He had a lot of success early, which comes with a lot of pressure, which comes with a lot of opportunities, which comes with a lot of distractions. And then you bring in guys like Odell, and that adds to the pressure. It doesn't take away from the pressure. And there's this sense that you've got to go be someone that you aren't necessarily. You got to go do things differently than what you did before. And there's some truth to that in the sense that you got to consistently improve, but you don't have to take chances that you sometimes will take to justify the success you had early. And I think that's what he's going through is he's experiencing that success. He hasn't handled it very well. He's stuck to this, I'm going to be me. I'm going to take on the world. That's my personality. That's
okay. Works for him at every step.
That's where I would disagree with you, Coach, in terms of him being somebody. This is who Baker is. Like, look, I also think we're getting away from. There's a reason he wasn't number one on 31 other teams' boards, right? That Sam Darnold was. Everybody else thought Baker Mayfield because Baker was closer to his ceiling. And part of it is he played for a mastermind of a head coach when he was at Oklahoma. Kyler Murray's the real deal in terms of a spread quarterback who can run, who can set his feet, can make all the throws. Baker doesn't have as good an arm, not as good an athlete, and he's made up for his lack of tangibles with intangibles. But that stuff only goes so far in this league. Then you factor in they're poorly coached. They got a bunch of guys that obviously don't want to be there now. They're not a team. And all of that stuff that used to work when things were going well now isn't working. All the rah-rah defending your players, not working. So I actually don't think he's being anybody that he hasn't. This is who he was at Texas Tech. This is who he was at Oklahoma. This is who he's been with the Cleveland Browns.
Well, look, Kyler Murray's numbers aren't anywhere near as good as Baker's numbers were as a rookie. And Baker has shown the ability to do it. And to say that that now a year later he suddenly can't do it. I don't agree with that. I think there's a lot of things that he does really well. I don't completely agree with the narrative that it's all coaching. I do think when you add players that have strong personalities with a young quarterback, that adds a totally different type of pressure that he didn't have the previous season. And then you add the expectations of what the team's supposed to do, that adds a different type of pressure. He has the success he has, that adds a different type of pressure. And look, you can have that bravado. You can say, I'm going to take on the world. That's great. The most important thing you need to do is you need to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are and work at those weaknesses. Otherwise, you are going to get killed.
Nick, I think your point is a strong one. All that stuff is true. I think the head coach plays into this a lot. Not in, let me give you the right schemes and plays, but in, hey, I've got my own issues. I need some semblance of a grown-up to point me in the right direction. So when I do go awry at a press conference or I don't handle it right, there's someone to say, no, this is the way to do it. John Dorsey hired a player-friendly coach. And what they probably needed, I thought all along, was a strong voice in there, a strong guy who's been in the league for a long time, like a Mike McCarthy or maybe a Ron Rivera or someone to say, this is how you win and this is how you lose. And I think that speaks to what you're saying is these guys don't know what to do. A guy like Baker Mayfield doesn't know how to deal with all the success that came his way. Freddie Kitchens isn't helping him at all.
Well, go ahead, Coach.
Well, the strength of the head coach, a lot of that is determined, too, by the type of authority he has, by the type of support that he has. So if you're the head coach and you want to make a decision on finding a player or whatever disciplinary action, and then they go to the GM, and the GM says, no, we're not going to do that, then everybody knows exactly how it works. And it can go up to ownership, too. Like authority and discipline and organizational sort of structure has layers to it.
So that is an overlooked point for the Cleveland Browns this year. The narrative was they hired Freddie Kitchens because he was Baker's guy, and that's partially true. I think you can make a very strong case. The other reason John Dorsey picked Freddie Kitchens is because once he does that, that is his organization, hands down. If you bring in a stronger or more seasoned or experienced or successful head coach, that head coach is the biggest voice in the organization other than the owner, right?
And it can push you out.
Right.
Just like it pushed you out in Kansas City.
Right.
It's exactly what that's the point I was leading to, and it's a great one, Coach, that is what happened in Kansas City. John Dorsey has a great head coach in Andy Reid, and guess what Andy Reid says? Well, I don't really need you. Like, I can do this. We can have someone else that is more my partner, doesn't think they're my boss. And even though John Dorsey did a really good job in Kansas City, he had to go find employment elsewhere because you had one of the strongest personalities in the league as your head coach. All of this, though, does circle back, Doug, to Baker has to get back to what made him great. But one of the issues for him is, and it's what I was saying with you, Coach, when your whole life you have been proving people wrong, when people have doubted you, and at the end of the day, it's who's been right on this? Oh, I shouldn't walk on here. Well, watch me. Oh, I shouldn't leave here and walk on at a bigger school. Well, watch me. You think I might not be a first-round pick? Watch me be the number one pick. Then watch me set the rookie touchdown record. He's never had the comeuppance of, the doubters were right. And I think how he responds to that will be the defining moment of this young portion of his career.
I think the whole thing is fascinating. It's fascinating, okay? Dorsey's love affair with players based upon talent, not upon character. I mean, look who he brought in from Kansas City with running back, or bringing in Odell. Whatever you think of Odell Beckham Jr., there's a reason that they're going to get rid of him after the Giants got rid of him. Even
drafted Antonio Callaway, who had all the red flags.
Even Jarvis Landry, who's been really good. Now he's going, hey, come get me. There's a reason Miami wanted him out of their locker room because they didn't think he was a good culture guy, no matter how talented he is. That's John Dorsey 101. These are problems that followed him back when he was in Kansas City. So I don't think it's just all head coach, but the fact that he didn't hire or could not find the right head coach to command this ship has hurt Baker Mayfield. And then Baker Mayfield not understanding, hey, sometimes you got to say no to some of these commercials. Sometimes you got to bite your tongue and not criticize everybody. You just got to take the high road. All of these things have turned out to be a fascinating and another disappointing season in Cleveland.
Let's talk some Baltimore Ravens now. Yesterday, the NFL released their Pro Bowl rosters, and Baltimore tied record with 12 initial selections. Lamar Jackson and his favorite target, Mark Andrews, leading the way on the offensive side of the ball. Doug, what do you make of the Ravens getting so many selections?
I said this before, Coach. I think it makes the case for Russell Wilson to be the MVP of the league even stronger. I understand that Lamar is a happening, right? Like my son, like every 10-year-old boy wants a Lamar Jackson jersey. And just if anybody has a size medium, let me know. You can't find them anywhere. Literally, they are sold out across America, every size outside of youth small. And even those, they get delivered. I think you'll get them by Valentine's. So, I mean, he's a happening, and he has taken over, and it's unbelievable how they jump on teams and don't let him up. But in terms of value, and this goes to, remember LeBron a couple years ago when Steph Curry was the unanimous MVP? And LeBron started by saying, kind of like I did, like, look, Steph Curry has had an unbelievable year, the wins, the points, the assists. But if you want to have a discussion about real value, right? And people crush LeBron James. And I said at the time, like, he's kind of right there, right? Because he helps you at both ends. He does some things that you can't see. And if you took LeBron James off the Cavs, it's a house of cards. You take Steph Curry off the Warriors, there's still probably a playoff team. That's the same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. They have a tremendous roster. Offensive line is ridiculous. The defense has been fixed simply by getting Marcus Peters.
And getting healthier.
And they got Earl Thomas. That was a smart addition, right? That they actually got better at safety since last year. And then they have a great kicker. And this is a little bit like a better version of Tebow time, right? That's how the Denver Broncos got to the playoffs that year and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they ran it, shortened the game, and then played to Matt Prater, who's the best kicker in the game. So there's a little bit of that. And then, of course, he's unbelievable, Lamar is, in the red zone. But if you take Russell Wilson off the Seahawks, what do you have? Right? What do you have? The guy rarely, if ever, turns football over. When he plays well, they win, or he's running around back there trying to make a play at the end of a game. When he plays poorly, as he did 2 weeks ago, they get demolished. I would say he's a more valuable, if you take true value to a team, Russell is more valuable in the pass game, on third down, even if you tell me this guy's ridiculous in terms of the touchdowns, the red zones, and the Ravens are the best team in football, but it's because their overall roster is better, along with Lamar playing great.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with the Pro Bowl selections determining the value of the roster. I think that becomes a big popularity contest, and obviously if you're winning, you've got much better chance of getting the Pro Bowl. And what's the excitement that surrounds a team? That's a huge factor in Pro Bowl voting as well, and Lamar has obviously driven that excitement, so the people are going to vote for those players. It's hard to think that Baltimore would be anywhere near where they are without Lamar Jackson. This is a perfect fit between the coordinator and that player, that Lamar Jackson. And if you didn't have either one, I don't think we'd see the success that the Ravens are having. And the defensive players are benefiting so much from the way that
fewer
this
snaps.
offense. Yeah, oh my God, fewer snaps. Not very much pressure.
Playing with the lead.
Playing with the lead. Very rarely are they behind. Very rarely are they under pressure to make plays. Most of the time, the other team has to do things that are outside of the game plan that they came into. So I think they're all benefiting from that. I really like Russell Wilson, and obviously what he's done in Seattle is impressive. But Lamar Jackson, without him, I don't think we see anywhere near the number of Pro Bowlers that they have.
So Russell Wilson was a guy I bet on to win MVP before the year because I thought Seattle was going to be way better than everyone thought. Most people thought they'd be the third best team in that division. Russell Wilson, I've said on this show, is the most underrated great player of this decade. Like, people have always tried to, Andrew Luck's better than him. Oh, he's a product of... Russell Wilson has never gotten his just respect, so I'm with you on a lot of this. But Lamar Jackson has been so clearly the MVP that I do wonder if some of this is, because you said something very interesting there, which is it's a better version of Tebow time, which is a dig at Lamar. It is, we don't want him to be MVP because we don't think this is actually long-term sustainable, and I don't care if it's long-term sustainable. This year, you said Russell never turns the ball over. Well, neither does Lamar, because they got the same number of turnovers. Just in the passing game, take away all the running, Lamar's got a higher passer rating and has thrown for more touchdowns than Russell Wilson. And it's not like he's throwing the ball like Tebow, 100 yards a game. He's going to throw for 3,400 yards this year to go along with 1,100 yards.
Throwing about $150 a game. I mean,
no, he's throwing 210 a game.
In the real games, it's around $150 a game.
Well, I don't know what you define as real games. What I know is that just their passing numbers. Lamar hasn't beat handily in touchdowns. Russell hasn't beat handily in yards. In the totality of it, Lamar is running away with it, and I think they have I know they have a very good coach. I know they have the best kicker I've ever seen. But that offense, if you had a typical quarterback, is so drastically different that I don't think you can say, oh, this would be a really good team with another quarterback. Maybe another great quarterback. If you switched these two quarterbacks, that'd be really interesting. Because all Pete Carroll wants to do is run the damn football. I feel like he would, as much as he loves Russell, he'd love to have Lamar as well. And I feel like Baltimore could do amazing things with Russell Wilson because they're both great. But I don't think anyone's been better this year than Lamar Jackson. Well,
look, he's going to win the MVP. I'm not fighting you on what's going to happen. By the way, curious, why is the Pro Bowl picked before the last two most important games of the season? Like, you want to talk about being a popularity contest that makes no sense and why we don't pay attention to it. We've already announced the Pro Bowl, and they're going to have to go through another 50 guys to actually get the rosters for this the week before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's the Pro Bowl. When you see a guy's been a Pro Bowl selection, it's like, what level?
Right.
How many guys dropped out before he came in? And
here's the sustainability is the issue, and also the question becomes, what happens in the offseason when teams adjust?
But that's irrelevant to the conversation.
What happens if Greg Roman leaves?
And there's the other part. Like, if Colin Kaepernick's sitting out there, remember, he could have been a Baltimore Raven if his girlfriend didn't put a meme out there with Django Unchanged.
Maybe.
Right? Likely would have been, how good would he be in this system a year ago or this year? But the Greg Roman thing, look at what he did in San Francisco with Cap. Look what he did in Buffalo with Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, or maybe.
And then this is a better version of that because the entire organization has put a better roster around a better player.
Maybe the answer to that is Greg Roman is one of the few offensive minds in football that is not trying to square hole round peg something and says a guy that's undervalued to the rest of the league, Colin Kaepernick, guy that's undervalued still to the rest of the league, Tyrod Taylor, and a guy that was undervalued in the draft, Lamar Jackson. We're going to shockingly build an offense around the skill set of our players. But Lamar they've won 10 in a row. Right. In the last 7, they've beat New England, Houston, San Francisco, and Buffalo. Throwing the football in the last 7 games, Lamar's 22 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 131 rating. I don't know which of those games you would consider the real games or not, but those are 4 playoff teams they've beaten during this winning streak, and he's 22 touchdowns to 1 pick. There is no getting away from how great he has been this year. What you think it's going to look like in 2023, I don't think is relevant to this year's MVP discussion.
Well, I was talking about 2020.
Okay, but that's also not relevant.
Kaepernick had a great year. Next year, league adjusted.
I had 2 back-to-back
and then Tyrod Taylor, great year, league adjusted. Well, so the question is, do the league does the that's why he lost.
Nick, you want to play a little drawing a blank?
For the first 25 games, yeah.
Yes,
please, Jenna.
Despite the loss last night, Lakers still tied for the best record in the NBA. Many are picking LeBron and company to win it all. But, Doug, the biggest threat to the Lakers in the NBA is blank.
Clippers. You have a star player and 2 guys who, it's not just that Paul George, I think, is a star. I think Kawhi Leonard's a superstar. But also they have the size, the length to defend him. And to defend LeBron James, in terms of the makeup. I think the Lakers are probably, going to add an Andre Iguodala, but I think the Clippers are the biggest challenger, far more so than anybody coming out of the East.
Clippers have no one to match up with Anthony Davis. They got all this perimeter defender. They have no rim protection. Trez Harrell's been awesome this year, but that's not what his game is.
He's a scorer.
Right, rebounder, but he's not going to be able to match up with Anthony Davis.
Not really a defender.
I am not certain we're going to get to see this Clippers-Lakers matchup everyone's saying. Clippers are going to have to get through a couple rounds, probably on the road, at least in round 2, if not also in round 1. I am certain we're going to get to see Lakers-Bucks. They're the biggest threat. They have the only player in the league that has a credible claim to be the best player other than LeBron and Giannis. They should have gotten to the NBA Finals. Last year, they were a double overtime game 3 away from beating the Toronto Raptors, going up 3-0. The Bucks can present real problems because of Giannis and because of the shooting on that team, so I say Milwaukee.
All right, sticking with the Bucks, they are 4 games clear of the rest of the Eastern Conference. So, Doug, the biggest threat to Milwaukee in the East is blank.
I think it's the 76ers. I mean, I think Joel Embiid might be the most talented player in the league.
Wow.
I mean, look, he's 7'1", and can really do it all. And our fear was Ben Simmons would have to score in the NBA playoffs. He's like their fourth leading scorer. I think they've done a nice job with Tobias Harris, integrating him into the offense. Like, they have experience. They felt the pain of losing on that rim rattler last year in Toronto. I think the 76ers are the biggest challengers in the East, and I don't think it's really that close in terms of anybody else.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's a challenger to the Bucks. I would be surprised if the Bucks have to face a Game 6 in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year. I think they are clearly head and shoulders better than everyone else. The Sixers don't appear to me to be better than last year. Embiid has not taken the leap I thought he would into MVP discussion. Obviously, Ben Simmons is the exact same guy, and while they add Al Horford, they lose.
Wait, Ben Simmons has made 2 threes this year. That changes everything.
And so, and there are a lot of really interesting teams in these. The Raptors are good again. The Heat are good again. The Pacers, even without Oladipo, you saw them last night. They are good again. I think that all those teams are fighting to who gets to lose to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Bucks, to me, there's nobody that can contend with them out east.
All right, James Harden is once again leading the NBA in scoring, 39 points per game. However, it hasn't translated in the standings as the Rockets sit at 5th in the West. Some are speculating they could make a trade to bring in some help. Doug, the contending team that needs to make a trade the most is blank.
I mean, I just don't know what the Rockets are going to trade. They've made so many deals.
They have no assets to send.
Nothing else. I would say the Heat. You know, Bam Adebayo is quickly becoming a star in this league. You add that to Jimmy Butler. They have a nice roster. You feel like if they could pluck a piece away from one of these teams that's trying to be bad, I would say the Heat would elevate themselves into that group that could be the runner-up in the East, if you will.
Listen, Spo continues to prove to everyone what a great coach he is. The culture of the Miami Heat organization, they never tank even when people think they should. But I'm going to go with the Celtics. The Celtics are better than most people expected. I think they are right where they're comfortable, being an overachieving, slightly under-talented team.
Yes.
And there is nothing Danny Ainge loves more than coming this close to making that major trade and not doing it. So I expect the Celtics to be in trade discussions. I think they will probably try to bring in a big man because Enes Kanter, friend of the show now, Enes Kanter, that not shockingly is not working out as well as they would have hoped with the type of team they're trying to be.
Can't guard the chair you're sitting in.
Of course. And so the Celtics are the team that Kemba's playing so well, Tatum's playing well, Jaylen Brown's trying to prove he's worth that contract.
Hayward was playing well before he got hurt.
Absolutely, and Hayward, it's not the type of injury that's going to keep him out, but he's already back. And so you expect Hayward to get back on that level. I say the Celtics, if they add a major piece, could be interesting. I don't know if they actually will, though. Danny Ainge loves those assets too much, man.
And we love Danny Ainge. This season, the Lakers have been led by LeBron and AD, but eventually your role players do have to step up. Last night, Rondo missed a potential game-tying shot. Doug, the most important role player for the Lakers is
How am I not going to pick the guy with the white guy receding hairline who couldn't shoot out of college, right? who's kind of stunningly athletic.
So and you're like, why couldn't that have been me?
Why could that be? Well, he's a lot bigger than me, but he's also a lot balder than me.
That's true.
He's a lot better than me as well. I think Alex Caruso is one of the, if not the straw that stirs this drink. He's changed this Lakers roster. They don't have anybody else outside of really LeBron, who can break down defense, create a shot for anybody else. As well as when he's in the game, it allows LeBron, plays point, but he doesn't have to play point defensively.
Yeah.
Legit great defensive team, and LeBron becomes like your 5th best defensive player.
And last year, when the two-man lineup that was best for the Lakers, in all the mayhem of last year, was LeBron with Caruso. He's always had a great rapport with him, but I'm going to go Dwight Howard. Because what the style they're trying to play, these two bigs, I do not trust. I know JaVale's got some championships. Don't care. I do not trust JaVale in a big spot.
Nobody does.
Dwight is playing his role the best he's played a role in almost a decade.
Yes.
Like, he is energy, he's defense, he's good, what's the word? Almost good, not energy on the court, but energy within the locker room. People like being around him, he's fun. All these things that were a knock on him for the last few years. Dwight's been hugely important. Last night he was excellent. To me, he's the most important role
comeback player of the year.
I know.
You know, and he wasn't actually hurt.
Yeah.
He was just bad.
Yes.
And
Back
not well
from
liked.
mediocrity.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern.